Hi, John Marshall, the DrillMaster. This is the other CVHS from Arizona video that I was asked to critique. So, armed regulation drill. And I'm glad that whoever was taking the video was up close and personal with the team before they started. I really like to get a complete view of a team. All right, so let's see, and I've enlarged it a little bit so that you can see it. Hopefully, it doesn't look all that pixelated, so I guess you've got a good picture. So here we go. So are you supposed to march in at trail? I mean, you can. Timing here is a little wonky. I can see some feet. And then, boy, that so the flank really took it out of the team. Let's go back to here, and unfortunately had some individuals in the way there. Oh, okay. So you stopped too early in the center here. So then distance and alignment all screwy there. And not the best way to make that first impression. Okay, so command, just like I told the unarmed commander, commander, don't do this. Don't respond to your own commands. You shouldn't actually be at port. You should be at sling arms. So for a platoon, for flight, the Air Force and the Space Force follow what a platoon does in the Army training circular. So the training circular has the rifle information either as the main weapon, not this case here because the main weapon is currently the M4, or it has it in the annex. One of the annexes has the 1903 and 17 and the M1. So I think it's two annexes have that. One's for the M1, the other is for the 1903, 1917. The 17 is the Enfield. So, and really there's no difference in the manual of arms for all three of the rifles, the Enfield, the M1 Garand, and the 1903, and even the M14. There's still nothing changes. It's a slight change for the M14 when you're standing at attention for the Army, well, actually for everybody, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, you need to follow that standard for the manual of arms for that rifle from the training circular, and then commander. Why I'm going back to platoon here. The flight commander then follows what the platoon leader does, and so you need to read that section for from the TC, but you don't. Commander, you don't respond to your own commands. You don't do all that stuff. And don't slam your rifles. That's not part of the of going to order. So you're going to let the rifle down and then pull it in as quickly as possible. Immediately, really. See, what you have here is you have muscle memory for slamming the rifle down, doing a butt slam there, essentially, and you can see where my arrow's pointing here. You have that muscle memory that lets the rifle come out at an angle away from your foot. When here, you can see this cadet right here, and I don't dare enlarge anymore, but you can see right there that the rifle is pretty much up against his, more or less, up against his foot. Same here. And then actually looks like same here too. So you have variation of technique here, which is bad. You don't need variation of technique in regulation drill. Everybody needs to be the same. So once that rifle touches the ground, then you move it over immediately to ground it up against your shoe. And then again, I need to emphasize this. You're going to make sound with the rifle when you bring it down to order, but what you did is to purposefully slam the rifle down for a louder sound, and that's not the technique, not the proper technique at all. And you don't do that either. So just because you're given dress right dress doesn't mean that you lift the rifle and hover it at the trail position with a just because you were given that command. You do execute that. You do lift the rifle as you move, but then you're going to set it down once you're finished moving. Everybody doesn't do it in unison, and you don't raise the rifle up, and you don't also set the rifle down in unison. It's an individual movement. And cadetizing absolutely everything in regulation drill is not the way to go. And I'm not talking about you as cadets. I'm talking about the entire world of cadets. Cadets do some really weird, sometimes stupid, but really just strange things because of the workings, the mind workings of a teenager. So, especially when cadets are left alone to do whatever they do. You know, instructors are busy inside or with other teams or whatever, and cadets just make stuff up. And it's not a proper technique. So heads are moving, elbows are flared, all that stuff. So just really quickly, I want to go over this. So you're going to bring the rifle up to the port position. You're going to grab the butt. You're going to place the rifle on your shoulder, but you're not going to, you see how I don't move this left elbow here? I'm not doing this. This is raising this because it's sharper. That's fine for exhibition drill, not for regulation drill. And that goes for every service. So keep that elbow pinned as you bring up the rifle to your shoulder. And you can see some head movement, you know, and the old adage is, which I really get tired of hearing, is move the rifle around your head, not your head around the rifle. It works. It's just, I've heard it a million times. And so you're just placing your hand over and then slamming the butt down. So, and there's a lot more that I could go into detail with here. I just don't have the time. Actually, I don't want to take the time because I don't want to bore you to death with that. I really need to be right there with the team and show you exactly, because it takes, going through the regulation drill sequence, it would take an afternoon to take you from where you are to get you to the operating level that maintains all of the standards. It takes a little while because you have to unlearn muscle memory. So just like I told the unarmed team, that's not the way you count off in line formation. The command is count off. Everybody turns their heads except the element leaders on the command off, and you're looking and listening. So you look for the head turn, but you also listen for whatever number is coming so that you know your number. And I know you know your number because you've practiced it a bunch of times, but that's the whole purpose of that head turn. When you're in column formation, the reason for turning your head and then snapping it back is that the head movement signals the person behind you, and the number is what, same difference there. You call out your number, and then they know the number behind you. They know it to call that next number. So it's totally different technique, and that's not it at all. That surprised me with the unarmed team. And commander, you're supposed to be facing your flight the whole time. And really, Go to sling arms and stay there. Stop doing all the movements and responding to your commands. That really needs to halt immediately. What you should be doing here for close and extend, and I don't know why you're calling close interval, unless it's specifically an Army meet and you're there following the Army sequence. If so, fine, got it. But for Air Force, it's close and extend, not close interval and normal interval. Anyway, so you should be facing your flight, again, at sling arms, and then when you give close, march, you march a half step forward at the half step forward, and then extend, march, you march backwards, and you should be 3 steps away from your flight, and you maintain that 3-step interval throughout the entire sequence. Arms aren't raised, or so that you can get that close interval dress right dress look, with the arm up and looking and all that. You don't raise your arms and you don't look. You just move. And so on that facing movement, I saw everybody was pinning their hand next to their thigh, and I saw rifles swing out just like that, and it was all in unison. So it was improper technique, but it was in unison and it looked good. However, what you're supposed to do is lift your rifle up and then place it down. Lift it up to the position, and again, it's hard to. I'm sitting down. This is all video, so I really can't explain it all that well without showing you in what you're exactly supposed to do. But on that first count, you make that facing movement. You bring the rifle over, facing the new direction that you're going to face, and then you set it down on the second count, right, and then pull it in, because you have your fingers there, pull that rifle in to ground it, all 3 toes aligned. And you're also lifting the rifle. Let's go back here. You're also lifting the rifle on that open ranks, lift, arch, and then everybody's marching forward. That's not the technique either. You lift. See, the rifle's way out there. Yeah, everybody lifted. I see that. And then you're waiting, and you're all, and see the rifle, at least this, now I can't, unfortunately there's this wood here and can't really see all that much else of the team, but this young cadet here got the rifle wagging back and forth, and that's just not good, not the case that you're supposed to do. And even with that command, you still have a rifle hovering right back here. So you have a sort of uniformity of technique, but so open ranks, march. On that first step, you lift the rifle 3 inches above, having the butt 3 inches above the marching surface, and then you come to a halt and you place that rifle down, and then you place the rifle down at the halt simultaneously, and then you look and put your arm up, or minus one or the other, depending on your position in the flight. And then as you move, then you pick up the rifle, then set it down. All this unison stuff needs to go. And you don't face, Commander. You would, and so that flank that you just screwed yourself, Commander. That flank into halting in front of the judge, shouldn't have done that. Should have halted and faced. And so you also need to get a better distance. Make sure that take the flight through the opening sequence there, and make sure that you have a good 3 steps away from the boundary, then you, Commander, and then another 3 steps and the flight. That's going to help you. So let me say, when you halted here, you should still have about 3 steps, okay? Right? That's what I meant. Sorry, I didn't articulate that very well. You need to have that 3 steps just as a cushion by the time you halt. If you go a little bit too long, fine. If you're a little short, also fine, not a problem. But this is way too close, and you barely have any room between you and your first element. So if anybody bent the knee on that about face, bent the right knee, you're doing it improperly. You should be drawing the C, this backwards C here, draw the C, then to make the V. And, I can't turn my hands. But bending the knee is an Army technique. And the Air Force, everybody but the Army doesn't bend the knee. I want to watch that again. A little more. So I see some, not everybody, but some, like first element leader, I saw you bring the rifle up and then bring it out and then in like this. It was a huge rocking motion. Instead of bringing it over at an angle, you're bringing it up and then in, which completely different. Your rifle stuck out from everybody else's. But I also see this, bringing it up and then setting the whole rifle down like this. That's also not the technique. I know that it's popular. Using that type of technique to set the whole thing down is kind of almost a holistic completion of the movement, but that's not the case. Your right arm shouldn't move. It should be parallel through the whole movement as you grasp, you're at port, so you're going to come down lower with your right arm, but then bring the rifle up to parallel, not higher, and then set it down. Just to parallel with the ground, or horizontal. You bring that right arm, the right forearm, up to horizontal. Don't pass horizontal. First step there really wasn't solid. It took the flight about 5 or so steps to really get into the movement. And then your toe striking looks like most of you. Half step should be a heel strike constantly. Heel strike forward. And how far is a half step? If our full step, our quick time step is 24 inches, then half step is 12 inches. So let's say if the third element leader has a foot size like I do, and when you wear shoes, then the extended little welt there from the heel to the toe, it's about 12 inches. So my boots that I wear in my blue uniform are 12 inches long. So I know that when I'm marching at a half step, the Air Force half step of 12 inches, then I need to keep my walking base, but the heel of my foot needs to stop at the line of the toe of my other foot. So as I move forward, I'm doing this. And heel striking, not toe striking. The Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard toe strike. We don't. And so look at the rifle angles here. Very consistent throughout until you get to third rank, second element. Got the hand a bit too high so that the rifle has a different angle there. And so you can see the toe strike, but also that's not half step. So I'm going to guess maybe the shoe size is 11. Let's say 11. So and I can see a slight overlap of maybe I'll just be conservative, I'll say an inch. So that's 2 inches shorter than the 12-inch step that you need to be taking. And since now I'm not really all that concerned of whether it's exactly 12 inches or exactly 24 inches. What I'm concerned about is uniformity throughout the flight. But I know that a taller individual, this young man here as third element leader, taller individual is going to have a bit larger feet than anybody shorter. You know, we have pretty much a uniform body for the most part. So taller, means a little bit larger feet. So I'm going to take just a hazard guess at that shoe size, so then I can watch how the step is performed, the half step, and see there's an overlap there. There really shouldn't be. There should be some kind of gap. Now let's take a shorter individual, maybe size 9 feet. I'm going to look for a little bit larger gap. I'm not going to measure that's neither here nor there. But I'm looking for, this is, all this, my training and my experience leads me to look for these certain gaps in the feet, and I look especially at the element leaders for that, the corners especially for column right and column left. Arm swing is not where it should be. See a lot of elbows bending. End steps were not, and you can see here, this is a good illustration of different end steps. So the end step is the last step you take in the direction, it's my term, the last step you take in the current direction before you either halt or pivot to a new direction. And so those end steps were all slightly different, which is why first element leader is here, and then the individual behind her is slightly out to the element leader's left, and then even farther out is the last individual in that element. I can see here the second, since I can't see the feet right there, the third element second rank took shorter end step, it looks like, and then this is yeah, so now it takes a few steps to get realigned, and that's fine, but you could have avoided that completely, taking those few steps to then get realigned, if you concentrate on those end steps, making them as close to exactly the same as possible. They all need to be 24 inches. So you element leader, first element leader, you took 3 steps before you entered half step. Whereas back here, third element leader, there, 1 step. I thought so. 1 step, and then he goes right into half step. Now again, half step is too short, but still, the technique is 1 full step and then enter half step. There, that second step that you took should have been there, but wasn't. So it took 4. So I explained to the rear march in the unarmed video. It's a half step, feet are in line, left is in front of the right, turn on your platforms, and then take another half step after that, and then finally take a full step. And you're just you've skipped all that minute technique detail there. Not bad on the port arms. I didn't see a lot of head movement. What I did see though was this. So instead of you going and then moving the hand up, I don't want you to slide it up like the Tomb Sentinels do at for the old guard. That's not the technique I'm thinking about. But what you did was, and it was, you could tell it was a slap plus this arc, this big arc. All you need to do is bring your hand up from the butt stock of the rifle up to the small, so you don't create that arc. That's something else that you need to stop doing. Yeah, so even though you're only marching forward third element leader, you still need to turn your head to the right. You turn your head to the right, give the command, snap it back. These two keep their heads turned to the right because they're looking for the people to pass and give those commands. Good. Good. And then you incline both directions. Excellent job, element leaders. And then second and third element members. That was good. All right, so Commander, you took off too early. We'll go back here. You should take off at the center of... Well, you kind of did, but you passed everybody up. Why did you do that? That's weird. So take off with the center of second element to remain centered and 3 steps away from. Move. You need to, as the flight is moving out, then you need to come in just a little bit. No, everybody's coming out. So never mind. You stay there, but you take off. If this is first element, you take off with second element and you're centered. And then when you're going to reform, then you just move up with the rest of the flight. And so Commander, you should be facing the element. You don't just give random commands facing some other direction. You have to face your formation, not element, but flight. You have to face the formation every single time you halt and are then going to give a command. So you halt, you face immediately, and you're on the wrong side. You should be on the other side. And I didn't catch that where you... on the... yeah. All right, so hold on just a second here. That's where you crossed, right there. Yeah. You crossed over here. So why did you do that? The normal way to cross over is that first column right, and then you're on the inside for that whole sequence there. So there was no need to cross over at all, honestly. So I crossed over when I was commander in Arizona for Agua Fria. The commander before me crossed over. Actually, everybody crossed over on that first column right because of the because of the sequence and the way it was written. It just seemed natural to cross over. So we did it for years, and it's still a thing in the Southwest. I've looked at it. I've looked into it, but I don't see it in other states. Anyway, so since you didn't cross over and you came all the way around for those columns right, and then this other column right here, there was no need to cross over because now you're on the wrong side for the rest of the sequence here. Up to I guess you crossed over for the... I'll skip there. Step close, and then you face immediately. So also element leaders, elements, you don't start marking time once you get there. Element leader, you have to call element halt as you come up, and then that step close needs to happen with proper distance and as exactly aligned as possible. So Army goes up, marches in place, and then halts. Air Force doesn't. Even if you're marching the Army sequence, you still do the Air Force technique. Now you're going to cross over again. Okay, so I get it. I understand the crossover. So now you're on the proper side. That's good. Let's go back here. Kind of looked a bit jumbled on that double time. You can see some opposite or late or early. Yeah, late and early bouncing. So you're going to bounce, and you all need to bounce as one. You're running, so running at attention. So, Commander, don't execute a flank and then start marking time. You face your direction, And then when when the center of the flight comes up, then you execute the flank and begin your half step. So face your flight, marching in place, 3 steps away, and then take off. And so did you see, it's the pulling the rifle out and then pushing it in. That's not the technique. You're taking the elbow. So initially, when I was first talking about this, you're taking the arm past horizontal when it should stop at horizontal. Can you see? Yeah. So bring it up to horizontal as you're bringing the rifle to your right shoulder from order. Here, you're taking it from port and you're coming out. So don't take the elbow away just to bring the rifle in. You're at port, your elbow's already there. Elbows don't need to move. Reach down, place, cut. And if you call it on the right foot, arm swing works perfectly right after. Good, you did. Excellent. Yeah, it's that setting, that coming out and then setting in. That's just not... it's too loose. It's a little bit too flamboyant. Oh, and you crossed over again. And there's no reason to. Yeah, you crossed over. I understand you crossed over for the eyes right, but you're not supposed to be on this side for the eyes right, Commander. You're supposed to be on the opposite side. You're supposed to be on the side that you're technically supposed to be on, which is a bit redundant. Feet just not working well here. And you're taking a full step on that rear march. Arm swing distance is a little inconsistent to the front. To the rear, I can see not too bad. That's not a salute, Commander. Which is why you need to be at sling arms. That's not a salute that you use other than when you're an individual outside of a formation, but only for the Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard. That's it. Army, Air Force, and now Space Force did away with that salute, with that type of salute, but it's only an individual salute. It's just like the guidon salute. You know, you come up here if you're carrying the guidon anywhere and you're outside of the formation, but you're in formation. Doing this doesn't work. So you're at sling arms, you're going to grab, salute, order arms, drop, bring your hand up, drop your left. That's not it. Good exchange of the arms there. That worked well. Called it on the correct foot, so everything worked smoothly there. So on your change step, just like the yeah, you're keeping the cadence of the change step. It's change step, march, step, 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 and so you go through the motions, but you never change step. If there was somebody else, let's say there was another flight behind you, and you did the change step just like that, and the flight behind you didn't do change step at all, you'd still be in step with the other flight. Change step is change step, harsh, step, step, step. It has to be that quick for those 3 counts to be able to flip the cadence to the opposite foot. Now, it doesn't really matter when you're only one flight, but it matters for a flight when you have other marching units with you. And technically, this is just to teach people how to get in step when they get out of step in a formation. It's really just an individual move and wouldn't be used by an entire formation. But it has to be step, step, step. You double the cadence for... Boy, that's a shame. Oh, crud. That ended too quickly. Darn it. So, got our middle cadet there in the first element out of step. That's a shame. So, middle cadet has responsibilities. Speaking of the middle cadet has the responsibilities. If this is the commander, middle cadet here, the other two, let's say there, the other two cadets, this middle cadet keeps the distance, that 3 steps distance, and also keeps the flight centered behind the commander as everybody's marching up. So everybody on the outside, element leader, and then third rank, they're going to dress to the center. Everybody else dresses to the center. Everybody in the center is directly dressing on covering on the individual who's right here, who in this case unfortunately was out of step, but that's not a big deal. It just takes practice to consistently stay in step and remain there. Could have skipped step there and done the change step to get back in step. I don't know where the problem arose, but I've already spent 36 minutes on this, so I really don't want to keep you longer. But thank you very much for the critique or critique request, and I hope my comments are helpful. And Commander, you got to go to Sling Arms. All right, thanks.